When my apartment burned down, I wrote, "The kids and I are safe, but we have nowhere to go." Silence. An hour later, my cousin uploaded pictures from a pool party. Family over everything. Nobody showed. Weeks later, still sleeping on a friend's couch, my phone shook with 88 missed calls and a text from Dad. "Help! $3,900 tonight." Without hesitation, I. The smell came before the smoke. That sharp, acrid bite of melting plastic. Something electric catching, familiar and terrifying. It was 2:12 a.m. I only remember because I just tucked Ava back in after one of her dreams about the dog we used to have. She asked for water. I didn't even get the chance to bring it. I opened the door and a wall of gray air pushed in. I didn't process it. I didn't stop. I screamed for Eli, grabbed both kids, wrapped Eli in a blanket, and we bolted. No shoes, no bags, no time. People were already screaming upstairs. Someone was pounding on doors. I caught a glimpse of flames through the stairwell window. Third floor. We barely made it out. Outside the parking lot looked like a war zone. People wrapped in towels, holding crying kids barefoot, watching everything they own turn into smoke. I stood there holding mine, heart thudding, the cold concrete biting into my feet, watching the apartment where I raised my children burn. I posted on Facebook from Kayla's phone, still standing in that parking lot. My own phone had died. Wallet was inside, car keys, clothes, everything. The kids and I are safe, but we have nowhere to go. I thought someone would answer, not strangers, family. I wasn't asking for money. I just needed a place to sleep that night. I refreshed the post 100 times. 10 minutes passed. 20:45. Nothing. An hour later, Heather, my cousin, the one who cried when I bought Ava's first birthday dress because family should show up for family, posted photos from a pool party, her kids' margaritas, my parents were there, my brother Brandon, aunts, uncles, everyone. Matching shirts that said family first. Her caption, family over everything. It knocked the wind out of me more than the fire ever could. Kayla offered her couch without even asking questions. I think she saw my face, saw the kids wrapped in thin blankets. She just nodded and started pulling pillows out of a closet. That night, Ava whispered, "Is this our new house?" I told her just for now. She looked at me for a while like she didn't believe it, then rolled over and went to sleep. No one called. No one texted. Not even "Are you okay?" Not even from my mom. They all saw the post. I know because Heather's photo had 23 comments, and my post was 2 down on her feed. I could see that my mom liked it, like the pool photo, not mine. They knew. They just didn't care. And it wasn't like I hadn't done enough for them. When Brandon got into ASU and didn't have enough for books or a deposit, guess who wrote the checks? I was already a single mom by then. Brandon was the golden child, straightest scholarship kid. My parents worshipped him, said he was their investment. I made that investment too. I co-signed his student loans, paid his car insurance for 2 years, even paid off a $1,300 credit card bill when he couldn't tell my parents he maxed it on spring break. And now we're homeless, and they're doing cannonballs and grilling burgers. 2 weeks on Kayla's couch. 2 weeks of re-wearing the same donated leggings, of using public laundromats, of Ava asking about her dolls, and Eli wetting the bed and crying because it wasn't his blanket. I swallowed my pride and applied for emergency housing, food stamps, whatever I could get. Still nothing from them. And then, out of nowhere, my phone started vibrating nonstop. 88 missed calls, all from my dad. Then the text came through. Help. $3,900 tonight. No punctuation, no explanation. And just like that, I felt nothing. Not anger, not confusion, just a cold clarity I'd never felt before. And without hesitation, I made a choice that changed everything. I stared at that message for a long time. $3,900 tonight. That was it. No, how are you? No mention of the fire. No asking about Aora Eli. Just a demand. I didn't reply. An hour later, my mom called. I let it ring. Then my brother, then Heather. Suddenly, my phone was blowing up like we were close, like we hadn't just been living out of garbage bags and charity bins for 2 weeks. A few more texts trickled in. From Mom, he's in trouble. We need you. From Heather, please don't make this about the fire. We didn't know. From Brandon, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. I laughed loud enough that Kayla poked her head into the living room where I was lying with the kids. I showed her the phone. She didn't say anything, just shook her head and went back into her room. And still, I didn't reply. They kept calling every hour for 6 hours straight. When I finally picked up, it was my dad's voice, hoarse and low. He owed money, not for rent or something responsible. Casino debt. He'd started gambling again. Apparently, it was a mix-up according to him. A temporary situation. He just needed to pay someone back before it got messy. I asked him if Mom. He paused. I had my answer. That was when I realized something. They didn't come because they thought I'd be fine, because they assumed I'd figure it out. I was always the one who figured it out. They used me like a second income source, a backup adult, the tool. They didn't ask how we were. They didn't ask where the kids were sleeping. They asked if I still had access to that emergency fund I once mentioned during Christmas dinner. The one I built working 60-hour weeks for my kids, for our future. I told him no. He got quiet, then asked if I was really going to let this happen to him. I said, I think it already did, and I hung up. After that, everything shifted. Brandon called the next day pretending to check in, but ended up asking if I could at least loan part of the money. Said I was holding a grudge over something that wasn't even personal. I asked him if he remembered whose name was on his first car. Silence. Mom messaged me that night. Long paragraph about how she felt caught in the middle, how family is messy, how I shouldn't let this ruin our bond. No mention of Ava or Eli. Not a word. I sent back one line. I'm not caught in the middle. I'm on the outside watching you all swim. Then I blocked her. A week passed. No new calls. No apologies. Nothing. And then one morning, while I was getting the kids dressed for school, I found something in Ava's backpack. A letter she wrote in her crooked 6-year-old handwriting. She'd written about living in a sleepover house and how she missed her bed and her dollhouse and the drawings on her wall. I cried in the bathroom for 10 minutes. And that was the moment I knew this wasn't going to be temporary. Not the fire, not the couch, not the betrayal. It was all a line in the sand. I wasn't going back. Not to their calls, not to their conditions, not to that twisted definition of family. I made a decision. They wanted to forget about us. Fine. I was going to make it impossible for them to be a part of our lives again. The next few weeks felt like a blur. I wasn't sleeping much, partly because of the couch springs in my back, partly because I couldn't stop replaying everything. All the birthdays I paid for, the times I loaned money without interest, the holidays I hosted just to keep everyone together. It wasn't even about the money. It was about how quickly they dropped us when we were inconvenient. I spent my days juggling work, Ava's school, Eli's tantrums, and paperwork for housing assistance. I hadn't seen a paycheck in over a month thanks to missed shifts from the fire. We were living off what was left of my savings, which wasn't much, but somehow I felt clearer than I had in years. Then came the final straw. Kayla handed me her phone one morning. She looked weird about it. "It's your mom," she said. "She left a voicemail on my phone. Don't ask me how she got my number." I listened. My mom said she was worried about the children, said she didn't understand why I was withholding them from their family, and ended with something that made my blood run cold. "We might have to talk to someone about custody. This isn't healthy for them." Custody? Like she was talking about furniture. That's when the switch flipped in me. I went cold. The kind of cold that doesn't crack. They wanted to make this about the kids. Fine. Let's talk about the kids. Let's talk about how Ava once sat in the hospital with a 103 fever and no one showed up. Let's talk about Eli's 3rd birthday when they said they were too busy to drive across town. Let's talk about how not one of them offered a bed after our apartment burned down. But now they were worried about my parenting. I didn't call her back. I called a lawyer. I found a woman named Denise through a nonprofit for single mothers. She met me on a Sunday afternoon in a half-empty office above a thrift store. She didn't waste time. Told me exactly what I needed. Documentation, messages, proof of neglect, and how to get ahead of any false claims. I pulled out everything. Texts, call logs, the missed calls that only came after my dad needed money. The voicemail, the Facebook post, the silence that followed. Denise looked me dead in the eye and said they wouldn't stand a chance. That night, I wrote a message in the family group chat. I didn't want ambiguity. I didn't want them twisting anything. I wrote, "This is the last time I'll speak to any of you directly. You made your choices. You abandoned me and my children when we needed you most. I'm no longer part of this family, and neither are they. Don't contact us again." Then I left the chat. Brandon tried calling twice. Then a text. "You're really going to blow everything up over this?" Oh, I wasn't blowing things up. They were already ashes. I was just done digging through them. 2 days later, I transferred the last auto payment I'd been sending to my parents every month. The $300 that was supposedly helping with the house into a savings account for Ava and Eli. I told Ava we were going to build her room again. She smiled so big I thought her face might split in two. Revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't some dramatic confrontation. It was quiet. It was cutting the cord and watching them realize they no longer had a grip on me. It was getting stronger without letting them know just how much they'd failed. And I wasn't done yet. Things were finally starting to settle. We got a call back from housing. Someone backed out of a 2-bedroom unit and we were next in line. It wasn't fancy, but it had a door that locked, windows that opened, and a little corner for Ava to hang her drawings. I cried when I signed the lease. Not because it was perfect, but because it was ours. I thought the worst was behind us. Then one afternoon, Ava's school called. The secretary said someone had tried to pick her up early. A man said he was her grandfather. My chest went numb. I asked if they let him take her. She said no. Ava told the teacher she didn't recognize him, told her mommy said we don't talk to them anymore. I left work without even clocking out. When I got to the school, Ava ran into my arms. The principal asked if I wanted to report it. I said yes. I filed a no-contact order the same day. Apparently, they don't take too kindly to custody threats followed by unauthorized school visits. That night, I told Ava she was brave. She asked me if she did something wrong. I told her no, that she did exactly what she was supposed to, and I meant it. But when she fell asleep, I sat in the kitchen with the lights off, trying to stop my hands from shaking. They crossed a line. They weren't done with me, but now I wasn't just playing defense. I remembered something from years ago, buried under a pile of old text threads and bank statements, a payment I made for Brandon. It wasn't just rent or books. It was a retainer for a lawyer, for a DUI he begged me not to tell our parents about. I still had the receipt, so I sent a message to him, just a photo of the invoice and the payment with one sentence. I wonder what your new employer would think of this. I didn't get a reply, but 2 days later, I got a letter certified mail from my parents. A handwritten note. "We didn't mean to scare you. We just wanted to help. Maybe we can come visit the kids soon. We've been talking and we think a clean slate would be good for everyone." It would have been laughable if it wasn't so sick. Clean slate. They tried to snatch my daughter from school like she was a backpack they forgot to grab on the way out. I didn't respond, but I did take the letter to Denise. She read it, took a deep breath, and said, "They're getting desperate. Don't flinch." I didn't. Instead, I opened a new bank account in Ava's name. I made a savings jar for Eli's future therapy, just in case. I cut off every tie that could be traced, canceled the old number, changed jobs, moved again when the lease expired. I told no one where we were going, not even Kayla. And then something happened that I never expected. I ran into Brandon's wife. Target parking lot. Cart full of baby formula and frozen waffles. Her hair was a mess, eyes puffy. She looked like she hadn't slept in a week. She saw me and froze. I nodded. She stepped closer and said, "You were right. That's it." Didn't ask for forgiveness. Didn't try to explain. Just those 3 words. And then she walked back to her car and drove away. I stood there for a long time, watching her taillights disappear. I should have felt smug. I didn't. I felt done, like this whole thing had finally burned itself out. But there was still one thing left I needed to do before I could move on completely. Ava was coloring at the table when I did it, just sitting there with her crayons and her humming and her little mismatched socks. Eli was asleep on the couch, drooling into his new Spider-Man pillow. Me. I was holding my phone, hovering over the last link I had to any of them. The family group photo, the one they use for every holiday card, birthday slideshow, and smug post about generations of love. I was in it off to the side, holding Ava as a baby, wearing the same sweatshirt I slept in during my second trimester. It was taken right after Brandon's college graduation, the one I paid for. I knew that smile. It was the kind you wear when you're holding a secret grudge, like a gift you're too polite to return. I deleted it. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up the email I'd been avoiding for months, the automatic tuition payment for Brandon's master's program. Another thing I'd stupidly offered to help cover when he said it would change everything for his future. I'd been paying $200 a month for over a year. I canceled it. And when the confirmation screen popped up, I whispered, "That's your inheritance, kids." Ava didn't even look up. She was too busy drawing stars around a stick figure family that only had 3 people in it. That night, I sat them both down and told them we were going to take a little trip. Just us. No phones, no work, no drama. I had a little bit saved, and I figured if I could survive a fire, betrayal, and a near kidnapping, I deserved a weekend with a view. We drove upstate, found a cabin, fed ducks, roasted marshmallows. I watched Ava teach Eli how to skip rocks. They giggled until sunset, and for the first time in months, my chest didn't feel like it was carrying bricks. The moment we got back, though, Karma kicked the door in. Heather emailed me. A forward from my dad's lawyer. They were suing me. Not for custody, not even for money, for defamation. Apparently, word got around. Someone Brandon worked with saw an old Reddit post I made, anonymous, of course, about family betrayal. They connected the dots. He got questioned by HR. Brandon lost a major project. Rumors spread. And instead of confronting me like adults, they decided to throw a Hail Mary, except they forgot who they were messing with. I sent the whole thing to Denise. She laughed. Not politely, not uncomfortably. She actually laughed. She said, "Let them try." We filed a counterclaim, harassment, attempted parental alienation, unauthorized contact with a minor. I wasn't just defending myself anymore. I was going on the offensive. 2 weeks later, the case was dropped. Quietly, privately, like they never even tried. No apology, no email, no, let's talk this out, just silence. That's when I knew it was over. I wasn't part of their story anymore. They were just a part of mine. A dark chapter, one with burn marks maybe, but no more pages. I tucked the court paperwork into a drawer and didn't look back. No. Now it was time to start the last part, the part where we really lived. It's been 8 months since the last message. 8 months since I told them not to contact me again, and this time they actually listened. Or maybe they finally understood I wasn't bluffing. Maybe they realized they pushed the wrong person too far one too many times. I blocked every number, every email, changed hours, took the kids off every list their names might appear on. School directories, emergency contact forms, anything. Denise helped with the rest. I filed all the paperwork, took every step, made it airtight. The silence came quickly after that, and it stayed. Funny thing is, I used to think I'd feel empty if I cut them out, like I'd missed something essential. But it turns out silence feels a lot like peace when it follows years of guilt, manipulation, and being taken for granted. We finally moved again. A place with our names on the lease and no favors owed. 2 bedrooms, a chipped bathtub, windows that leak a little when it rains. But still, it's home. Ava picked lavender paint for her walls and covered them with stars and cut out magazine pictures of puppies. Eli got Spider-Man curtains. We go to sleep to the hum of an old fridge and wake up to sunlight coming through real curtains, not the ones Kayla hung over the pull-out couch. I used to send $300 a month to my parents to help with their mortgage, another $200 toward Brandon's tuition, sometimes more when they forgot to cover things. Now, that money goes to backpacks, school books, ballet lessons, new shoes, food. I don't have to portion out to make last. I open savings accounts in both kids' names. There's not a fortune in there, but there's more than zero, which is more than I ever had growing up. And I'm not constantly broke anymore. Not because I make more. My job still pays the same, but because I stopped bleeding money for people who let me burn. I think about that night sometimes, watching our apartment light up like a lantern while Ava clung to my side, and Eli cried because his stuffed bear got left behind. I think about how not one person from my so-called family reached out to ask if we needed water, a ride, a toothbrush. They let us vanish like we didn't exist. Now we really don't, not to them. They've probably rewritten the story by now, told themselves I went crazy, that I isolated the kids, that I turned on them. That's fine. Let them. Let them sit around their wine-soaked holidays and pretend I was the ungrateful one. They don't know Ava started reading chapter books early or that Eli finally learned how to swim without floaties. They don't know we had pancakes for dinner 3 nights in a row just because we wanted to. They don't know I've started taking photos again. Real ones, printed and framed. Our new place has a wall full of them. Not a single one includes my parents or Brandon or anyone who chose their comfort over our survival. Ava asked once if we'd ever see them again. She said it like she was asking about a movie she remembered. I asked her why, and she just shrugged. They're kind of like ghosts now, she said. She wasn't wrong. I told her, sometimes when people hurt you and never apologize, the best thing you can do is leave them behind. Not because you hate them, but because you love yourself more. She nodded and went back to drawing stars. Eli never asks. He's too busy pretending the living room is a spaceship and the couch is the moon. His world is soft now. He knows who tucks him in every night, who buys the bedtime snacks, who holds his hand when he's scared. Me. I stopped explaining. I stopped giving soft versions of hard truths. When people ask about my family, I just say it's me and the kids. That's all we need. And I mean it. The clean break didn't leave me shattered. It left me whole. Sometimes people say blood is thicker than water, but I've learned blood can drown you just as fast, especially when you're the only one swimming while they stand on the shore watching. I don't need them to clap for us. I've got 2 little pairs of hands doing that every single day. We're not broken anymore. We're just getting started.